everyone, welcome back to Katarina's Garage. My name is Katarina Lloyd, and today, well, I'm actually here at the Galt Garden Show here in Lethbridge. And to be honest, this is one of the bigger sort of shows that happens on Straight Machine Weekend. It's always on the Sunday. And, you know, past couple of days, there's been like cruising all over the place. There has been a couple other shows as well. But, you know, it's really cool to see, even like the cars that aren't even part of the show. Like, you know, take that, I think that's an Aries K as an example, right? Just super clean and super nice, to be honest. Like, you never see them in this kind of condition. It's just incredible. You know, and this might be early enough, because I'm not sure on the grille designs, but this might be early enough to be a 2.6, actually, which a pretty rare engine, to be honest, to find, and one of those. But hey, you know what? That's still really cool. But anyways, let's go take a tour around, and there's quite a few cars this year, and actually quite a bit of variety as well. It's not just all classics here. So let's take a look. So you can see right here, you know, a cool, looks like a Survivor Chevrolet Chevette. Now, the one thing is with the Chevette is that it was designed to be, it's a 1981, okay, so it's a late Chevette. It was designed to be your typical just sort of econo box, right? It wasn't anything too fancy or anything like that, but that's kind of the beauty of these cars, because people build these things up all the time. This one happens to have a 4-speed manual in it, and what's interesting is they actually did have a Isuzu diesel option for these as well. Most of them came with just regular 4-cylinder gas motors, though. They didn't produce a lot of power, but these things, you can build them up. People put big blocks and small blocks in them and LSs in them all the time. So this used to be the hot rodder's car of choice, because these are actually rear-wheel drive as well. So overall, very cool, and I love that it's just a nice Survivor, to be honest. So here we have a 69 Mustang GT. Beautiful, beautiful car. You know, with the white on black stripes and the Hurst 4-speed shifter in there. That is just beautiful. You know, as we kind of look around it, and like being this fastback design, like 69 is my absolute favorite year of these Mustangs, especially in these fastbacks. And I'm just a big fan, to be honest. Absolutely love, you know, the old Mustang rally wheels. And like just about, or well, technically not rally wheels, I believe they're Magnum 500s, which Ford, AMC, Dodge, and Chevrolet all had a version of that wheel in some form or another. Oh, this one's really rare with the clock actually option. You'd almost never see them with the clock. That's cool. And yeah, just overall, just a beautiful, beautiful car. Yeah, this one happens to have a 351 under the hood, which you can see it there. And the motor's actually painted white, which you almost never see that. That's kind of cool. I love all the chrome accents under here too. Like even seeing the air conditioning bracket just in chrome with the pony logo on it. That is super, super cool. Really, just big fan of this gorgeous, gorgeous car. All right, we continue on here. Here we have a 1966 Pontiac Bull Mod. Now, if you don't know what a Bull Mod actually is, it is a Canadian version of the Chevrolet Chevelle. So, due to taxes, actually, with imported vehicles, through basically from the 40s right up into the 70s, we actually got our own versions of cars. So this is essentially a Chevrolet Chevelle with Pontiac trappings on it. However, like under the hood, you would have found a Chevrolet engine, and it's actually a Chevrolet frame as well. All right, now let's take a look at the interior here, which I love these Chevrolet interiors with just, honestly, just how minimalist and how nice they are. And I love the wood rim steering wheel. You know, it's pretty cool. And even, you know, her shifter. That's nice too. And these awesome US mag wheels, they resemble like a old school torque thrust wheel, but that's not what they are. With Hoosier tires. Very, very nice. And just a beautiful, beautiful car. And now here's something interesting. So you look at this and go, hey, that's a shoebox Ford. And yeah, but this is actually a Ford Victoria, which you might think, wait, that name sounds familiar. Well, that's because for a long time, Ford actually made a vehicle called the Ford Crown Victoria. However, the Crown Victoria was the stage up from this, if I'm not mistaken, and came out a little later. I don't know the exact year range. This happens to be a 51, and it's in gorgeous shape. A lot of these would have had, this one does have, the flathead V8. And let's just take a look at the interior of this. You know, beautifully upholstered. Love that dash with even, you know, the gauge cluster and everything, which is only one gauge, but just a beautiful rig. Yeah, and I love even the exhaust tips here. It harkens back to the 50s, to be honest, when people modify cars like that. Overall, very cool. Yeah. Now we have here a really cool and in very nice condition Chevrolet Impala with the 427 with the 425 horsepower. So that is really cool to see, to be honest, and not too many of these were built like this, but it's nice to see it. And this one is in amazing condition overall. You know, bench seat automatic, but it's a perfect sleeper, right? And that's a lot of the time when people bought these, yeah, they were just buying them for like sleeper purposes. And I love, you know, the Chevrolet rally wheels too. They just always look so good. And now what's interesting with these is that actually Supernatural made these very, very, very popular, albeit in a 67 four-door, because I think this is a 66, I want to say. But overall, just a very gorgeous, gorgeous rig. As we continue on here, actually a Triumph TR6. Now, the one thing is, Triumph, they're known for making motorcycles, but for a little while they actually made cars as well. And they were all essentially two-seater sports cars similar to this. And because the last of the iteration of the Triumph cars, if I'm not mistaken, was a Triumph TR8, which actually had a Rover V8 in it. And this is actually in really good shape, and it's actually for sale too, which I'll show you that in a moment. You know, absolutely love these rally wheels with the red line tires too. It just kind of harkens back to how these cars kind of came out that way. Yeah, overall very nice. And if you're interested, right there. Now, this is something actually, I spotted this car yesterday, and I did a quick little video of it when it was, at least I'm pretty sure this is the same car, because how many 64, yeah, this is the same car. So this is actually a 1964 Ford Falcon. Now, the one thing is, with the Falcon actually, because the Falcon came first in 1960, but the Mustang is actually based off the Falcon. If you take a look, similar, it's actually got a very similar roof line to the Mustang when it first came out in, technically in 65 as a 64, well, in 64 as a 65 model. And this actually has kind of a rare motor. It's a Ford 260, which this was, because everybody knows the 289, the 302, and the 351 in the Windsor package, but you could also get that 260 as well. And yeah, just in very nice shape. And what's really, really cool about this one is it's got a 4-speed in it, right? Which, very, very rare combination. And I'm just a big fan, to be honest. So overall, very, very gorgeous. And I even love that it still has the Fumoco. That would be for not coolant, but for washer fluid bag. Right, you can see it over there. That's really, really cool. Now check this out. This is a beautiful 1955 Chevrolet pickup truck, and you just look at the custom work that's been done, because a lot of the bright work has been deleted, but also like shaved door handles, right? So just gives it that clean look. And okay, the shifter's a little deceiving, but actually it's an automatic in this one on the floor. So you just have to look down at the pedals. This happens to have a 350 under the hood, but that's pretty common to put in just about everything. And, because actually, hang on a minute. Oh no, okay, it's not. For a second I thought maybe this is a Chevrolet Cameo, but no, it's not. So, Cameos are actually unibody. Well, kind of. They're unibody, like the bed and box are the same, are like one piece, but it actually still has a frame underneath of it. So, this thing is awesome. I dig these wheels as well. They are just absolutely beautiful. And yeah, don't see them quite like this all too often. Now here is a 1963 Ford Galaxy, and the Galaxy was Ford's top of the line model in their full size category. Before, of course, Lincoln, but this thing is absolutely sweet. Like, and I love the Galaxies from this time period too, because like the tail lights were always a dead giveaway that you were looking at a Galaxy. That and just how big they are too, but I love even it's got a little bit of pinstriping here. Check that out. Right? I just, like, you never know what you're gonna find around here. And it's just really, really cool. This happens to have a 390 big block in it, which you can see under the hood here. And now you might look at that and go, wait, Thunderbird valve covers, what? Well, it's interesting because the Ford Thunderbird was their, like, top of the line. Actually, the Thunderbird would have been sort of the mid-size for top of the line. This would have been their top of the line full size. But the one thing is, they actually use a Thunderbird name for some of their V8s and their big blocks back in the early 60s. So that's really cool. And again, you have that awesome, you know, that's, again, for your washer fluid bag. I love it. Very nice car. Now check out this awesome GMC here. So this GMC looks to be a bit of a Survivor, actually, with, you know, the paint just the way it is and stuff like that. And it's got these American racing wheels, which to me, I prefer to see more tire over the rim. That's okay. That's the one thing. That's personal choice, right? And that's totally fine. This has a 4-speed manual in it, and I love that wood rim wheel, actually. That looks really, really good. And, you know, and it's interesting, actually. So in this time, because this is between a 68 to a 72, and the one thing is, standard would have come with a wood bed, which this one just has plywood back here, but they would have had, I can't remember what the wood would have been, but it would have been just single sheets with stainless steel about them. However, there was an option for a metal bed, and metal beds did not become standard until the square body Chevy came out in 1973. Now check out this beauty here. So this is a 1956 Chevrolet, and now I'd have to look at the side to see, is it a Bel Air? No, this might be either a 150 or 210. So you have the Chevrolet Inline 6, which that might be a 231, possibly a 250, but 250 I don't think was out yet, but it's possible that it was swapped in, right? This thing is in really, really good nick. And, you know, bench seat, and I can't tell, is it an automatic or a manual? It is, it's a, okay, so it's a 3 on the tree as well, which it's kind of like your, similar to like your bare bones sort of car, and this would have been just your general, sort of, not economy car, I wouldn't say, but like your family car, right? And they have this iconic lines, the Tri-5 from 55, 56, 57. They're all very coveted, and it's just in very good shape. All right, so here we have a 1965 Mercury Park Lane with a 394 barrel. Right, you can see it there. And honestly, this would have been Mercury's version of the Galaxy. So very similar cars, actually. And although Mercury, of course, is a stage up from Ford, so there's that. And it's very nice. Now, I don't know the hierarchy of Mercury full-size, though, in that regard, at least in this time period. A little later, the top of the dog would have been the Grand Marquis, but that wasn't even out yet, not in 65, so. But yeah, beautiful, beautiful car. You know, just love that styling, right? And it's just, you know, nice, full-framed, beautiful rig. You know, you just don't see them like this. Hardly ever. Now this here is a 1967 Chevrolet Chevelle. And the one thing is, people used to always hate on four-doors all the time, but to be honest, I never understood that. Now, don't get me wrong, a two-door looks a little nicer, but it still has those general lines, and this is still, this is still a time period when they actually still thought about the styling in their four-doors. So it's really cool. And the interesting thing is, because this is, okay, it is a Malibu. So the one thing is, and people don't realize this, the Chevrolet Chevelle was actually the base, while the Malibu was the stage up for it. And this one happens to have a 396 under the hood. Of course, I'm not going to open the hood because they didn't display it, but that's what it says on their little tag there. But very gorgeous Chevelle. Actually, no. So here we go. So here we have a Volkswagen Beetle. Now, the one thing is, I couldn't tell you what year it is, although I know it's a not super late, but a little later, just due to the fact that it does not have the split front windshield, and it has the bigger back window here. These all had Volkswagen flat 4s. They only made roughly about 40 horsepower, so weren't very fast. They were good on economy, and they were so simple. Like these seats, it's interesting to take them out. There's actually no bolts holding it in. It's just these interesting clips that you have to bend the seat a certain way and pull it, and then the seat comes out. The motor as well only comes out with just 4 bolts. It's pretty nice. So, and it just drops down, because these are actually rear engine, rear wheel drive. And I really do dig these Volkswagens, to be honest. They're just minimalist, cool. And that badge looks familiar. I mean, it's just a sticker, but I'm not sure if that's what I think it is, and just it's eluding me though. But I really do dig this a lot. And that's just the one thing. There was a time when these were an extremely popular vehicle, and then for a while they actually did end up not as sorry if my brain is just not working here. They kind of fell out of favor for a bit, and then they came back into favor again. And there was a time when Volkswagens were just cheap. Now, something like this would actually be not super expensive, but a lot more expensive than they used to be. As we continue on here, we have a 1954 Meteor, actually. Now, what's interesting about Meteor is that it was a brand that was Canadian only, and these were just Mercuries, right? But Meteor, because again, due to import laws and taxes, there was a lot of Canadian only models of vehicles that look very much like, you know, your typical Fords or Pontiacs and the like, even some Chevrolets, you know, and it's just really cool. And this one actually happens to be on that might be airbags, but could be on hydros as well. But yeah, this one has a flathead in it, and I love the spotlights. It's a nice touch, very nice touch. So here we have, interesting. So this is a 47 Oldsmobile. Now, I love this era of GM, especially like when you see these two-door like torpedo backs. Just looks really cool. It's like the sedan body, but well, it's the coupe body technically. However, I think there was 3 different body types, excluding convertibles. But this is really, really cool, and actually being of this vintage. Now, it no longer has the original drivetrain in it, because it says it is LS powered at this point. But, I mean, that's okay. I completely understand. The flathead 8 in this thing wouldn't have made a lot of power. And, you know, it's just one of those deals. But, you know, gotta love those wheels, actually. They look freaking killer. And just overall, the bright work and stuff, it's just really nice. And I love the look with the patina and stuff. And even these fog lights are freaking awesome. Old school. So actually, the other day, I spotted these 2 cars and did a short little video on them. And it's cool just to see, you know, like under the hood. And being able to do like a full tour of it, because that's one of those things. I was just filming those for like TikTok and only got about and like, you know, some of the shorter platforms, and only, you know, filmed both of these cars for a total of a minute. So honestly, it's in fantastic shape. This is a 65 Malibu SS convertible, which I think the Malibu at this time was a Canadian only model. I could be wrong, but it's really cool. Obviously it's modified, and you know, it's just really badass, and I absolutely love it. Beside it, we have a 1955 Bel Air, and you see under the hood here, you know, which it actually does have power brakes, which is nice, and got a bunch of goodies. You know, you can see the MSD distributor and stuff, and all the nice shininess. You know, and like this one has Wilwood disc brakes too, 6 pistons in the front. Like this thing would stop on a dime, and it's just very, very nice. To be honest, I dig this a lot, and it is a manual, so you know, that's really cool.
I'm sure that the belt doesn't work. It's probably a little bit damaged.
And something that's cool about these is, because I think it's the left, this taillight here, the gas door is actually in behind that. So actually no, it's right here. I thought, no, that was in 56. That's right, 55 it was still in the door. That's right, I forgot about that. So 56, 57 they would have had that, but 55 they had a conventional gas door. But it's really cool, like with these, and just the minor things that they did. And you know, like even this grill was actually inspired by Ferrari. So very cool. All right, so here we have something really, really cool, and I love these cars a lot. So this is a 1971 Dodge Charger SE, and we take a look under the hood, and it happens to be a big block. This could be 383 or 440, and actually it says 440 on there, so there you go. The reason how I could tell it was between like Dodge engines are very easy to tell if it's a big block or a small block. So small blocks have the distributor in the back, big blocks have them up front. Easiest way to tell for me anyways. And these, you know, they went from, because the Charger has such a weird lineage, because when it first started out it was kind of like this luxury sort of sport coupe that had a this very big fastback design inspired by the AMC Marlin. Then of course that was 66, 67, 68 they went to the Coke bottle styling, and in 71 to 74 they had this styling on it. And then afterwards, because like at this time period where it's still a muscle car, but it's turned into more of that luxury sort of coupe again. And then the luxury theme carried on until the Charger died in, it was either 78 or 79. And then afterwards, the name was revived for the L-body Mopar of the 80s, which was front-wheel drive and powered by a 2.2 liter engine. So overall, this thing's in fantastic shape, and I love the pistol grip on it. Oh yeah, absolutely love it. Now, here we have a 1967 Chevrolet Camaro, and the one thing is, the Camaro, this happens to be the RS, and the reason why I know it's an RS without even looking at the badge here is these hideaway headlights were only available on the RS model. Now this one's obviously is modified, you can see the headers and stuff like that, and this is a small block. But what's really cool is like, and these coils, people don't use them as much anymore, but the big Super super coil, right? Those things, you know, they advertise, hey, 85,000 volts, if I remember correctly, and everybody used them back in the day. Now, they're not used quite as much, but still really cool to see. And check out that fuel filter. That is really cool. I dig that a lot. Looks to be glass, actually, so that is neat. I love these centerline wheels, too. They look fantastic. Took a look inside, and like this, it just presents incredibly well in this cream with the black hood. Honestly, I like it. A lot of people may have actually repainted this car in a different color, but I love it. And this color actually accentuates the lines of it quite well. And I'm just a big fan of these. And the Chevrolet Camaro, like I said, it came out in 67, and it was actually because of the Ford Mustang, they wanted to gain some of that market for the pony car, And so then with the release of this, the Pony Car Wars was properly born. While the Barracuda did exist then, it just was not really there yet to be in competition properly with the likes of this and the Mustang. Now check this beauty out. So this is a Buick Regal factory turbo. Now what's interesting about this is because usually the T-types were T-top, but this one's actually a sunroof. So that's a little interesting. Now this one's definitely not stock though. Like, it looks mostly stock, but then this gives you a clue right here. You know, the slicks out back. And then you take a look under the hood and yeah, that's definitely not stock. And I mean, that's the one thing with the Buick 3.8 series of engine is it could actually date its time back to, I think it was 1959 when it was initially released, but they actually sold the tooling off to, I think it was Rover. And, oh no, I'm thinking of the 215 V8. So actually, the 3.8 V6, they actually sold the tooling for that and licensed it to Jeep. And Jeeps for a while had what was called the Dauntless V6. Same engine, albeit not turbocharged. And, you know, it was just very... They didn't use it for a terribly long time. And then... afterwards, I believe Buick got the tooling back, and in the late 70s, and that's when they, you know, started to put turbos in them, and by, you know, 1987, it reached its peak and was just such an awesome car. And we got the cars like the Grand National, which is basically just a blacked out version of this, and the GNX, which was the top of the top version of these Regals. Now here we go. Check out this really nice custom split bumper Z28 Camaro. The 72, it's got an LS1 in it, and it's got a 6-speed manual. That's probably, I would say it's probably a T56, but you never know. To be honest, I could have put anything in it. And it's just absolutely gorgeous. And like, take a look at these wheels and even the brakes and everything. Oh, just killer, right? And then you look under the hood here, and I love the header wrap that's done actually on this intake tube, and even this little enclosure for the air box. And the one thing is, because people always install cold air kits wrong, but this is the proper way. Have it so that it's actually in an enclosed space that can still get fresh air from somewhere like at the bottom, but make sure that it's shielded from the rest of the heat of the engine bay, because otherwise all you get is a cool sound and not the actual performance benefit. Alright, well, you want weird and different and just overall badass? Well, here you go. So we have a 1970 Dodge Challenger here, and under the hood you see good old 12 valve Cummins. And I saw this thing cruising around, and it was just so badass, to be honest, to see it, because so many people don't really customize them in this way. And it's kind of nice to see something just a little different with one of these, because yeah, these would have actually been a unibody car. And to be honest, other than trucks, all Dodges were unibody after, I think, in like 64, if I'm not mistaken. But the one thing is, this one's obviously on a frame. That's how they got the height out of it. And I mean, it could be who knows what chassis it is, I don't really know. But overall, this thing is just an absolute monster. Alright, so I'm just kind of skipping along because there's a lot of people around, and yeah, so it gets difficult to film. But this is a Mazda RX7. What year is this one? This one is a 85, so this would have been close to the final year. Now what's cool about this, and actually he has a demonstration up there, is this is a rotary engine. Now what is a rotary? So you can see right here, this is your basic design here of the 13B rotary. And so what happens is, these are actually a 2-stroke design, and you can see the spark plugs go in, right? This is just the single rotor here. But basically, so when this turns, it'll create the compression stroke. And then and the spark plugs will fire and everything, and that's how it does it. These are actually quite unique, and Mazda used the rotary design for many, many years. The design was initially from a German with the last name Wankel. That's why they're called Wankel rotaries, actually. And to be honest, it's really, really cool. They were a very light engine. Like, this engine is only about, I think they're like close to 80 cubic inches, which is like a 1.2 liter. But they made about 120-ish horsepower if you got the non-turbo one. And they were incredibly light. You know, like, it's amazing how small this engine is, right? And this is, so that's the rotor for a 13B. This is actually a 12A engine. So 13B is the most known of the rotaries, but, you know, Mazda did their first rotary, I think it was in 1960. So overall, just very, very cool. And this is my favorite generation of these. Okay, it's a 1.1 liter. There you go. So 1100 cc's. But yeah, just absolutely in love with this. And I'd love to play with one of these someday, but we'll see. This one, especially with the manual transmission in it, I love that a lot, the 5-speed. Just very nice. Love it. So here we have something really, really cool. I have seen this car around. This car is actually from Strathmore, but I see it all the time in Calgary. But Strathmore's not far from Calgary at all. So this thing is a fully custom Mustang. Like, you can see, like, even look at what they did with the trunk here. Like, this is just incredible work, and it's just so much metal work has gone into this thing. And, you know, it's a convertible with a 351 Cleveland under the hood, which is normally people will ditch the Cleveland. And not that it's a bad engine at all, to be honest. You can make good power with the Cleveland, but it's just expensive to make power, and there isn't as many parts available for the Cleveland, you know. But just everything has been touched. The only thing that look original is like the door panels and the dash. The gauges are custom as well, but it's got an 8-track player in there as well. And like, just look at this treatment under the hood for the motor. This is just incredible.
Best engineered car here.
Oh yeah, by far. I've seen this car a lot, actually.
Have you? So you ordered an orange?
Anyways, so continuing on here. So here we have this really awesome 52 Chevrolet, and it's just an absolutely gorgeous car. And I love the two-tone treatment of this with the orange and the cream. And actually, because he had it all painted orange like this, even in here, but he just thought it was a little too much. So then he did this nice, you know, on the body line, which looks fantastic, and it's just a unique look. Because most people, if they're going to do the two-tone, they would actually paint that area the same color, right? So it's really neat to see, and I absolutely love it. And some of these two-tone vehicles, actually, they would have, you know, just the fenders and the running boards different colors, but like the bumper treatment here would have been the orange. But it's nice to see because it really does break it up very well, and it just accentuates the lines with these colors. It's just a beautiful build. Now check out this beautiful Dart. So this thing obviously heavily modified. You know, you can see the big old Hoosier slicks back here, and honestly, I'm just a big fan of this. It's interesting, the low back bucket seats without headrests, but it's got a little bit of a roll bar in it too. I just absolutely dig the build. And now you look under the hood and look at that. You have a Edelbrock supercharger, and on, because I can't tell what motor this is, but it's just really cool because being as big as the heads are, I think it's a Hemi, but I could be wrong. But yeah, just overall, just a beautiful build. All right, so continuing on here, this is something that's very neat. So these are a very rare car to find, actually. This happens to be Pontiac Grand Prix, which, if you know that name, yeah, they actually used the Grand Prix name for a long time, but it resembles a lot of a Monte Carlo because that's what this is based off of. However, it is just so much cooler, in my opinion. And, you know, it happens to be a 72 with the 400 Pontiac. There you go. You know, you can see it poking out in there. American racing wheels, just very nice. And it's such a cool look, to be honest, that these have. And really, it's just one of those vehicles that you never will ever see these, to be honest. And honestly, I'm a big fan. So, and this one just, you know, it presents like it's original, other than the wheels, but for the most part, right? And I love just like the dashboard and everything, and the black interior and stuff. Oh yeah, it just has an absolutely perfect look. And all right, here we go. So if you don't know what this is one of the biggest cars in tuner culture, especially after the first Fast and Furious movie came out, or actually the second movie, I should say. You know, Brian O'Connor drove one of these, and this is an R34 GTR V-Spec. Honestly, these are an absolute monster, and what's cool about these, because they actually have four-wheel steering, and I think they may have had active aero as well. And the one thing is, like, these were only available in Japan, and very limited numbers of these. Now, this one is modified a bit, but, you know, the RB26, which was exclusive to the GTR, because the Skyline in its own was just a basic sort of family sort of car, but they had the badass version that was the GTR, right? And it's just that iconic blue, and really just so damn cool. Big fan. Now check this thing out. So this is a 1967 Cadillac sedan DeVille, and honestly, this was the pinnacle of luxury for them. Now, there was the Eldorado that would have been above this as well. However, seeing this is just very cool, and like, and in the condition it's in, because it's just a nice Survivor, right? And that's what's nice about it, you know. And it's got some, you know, like cup holders added, with kind of cool actually. Kind of did it, just kind of ratty like that, and I love it. You know, and that's the one thing. You don't have to have the best conditioned vehicle around. As long as you enjoy it, that's all that matters. And I'm a big fan of this awesome Caddy. All right, so here we have a 1968 Plymouth Fury. Okay, so it's got a 318. And this happens to be, so on some wire wheels here with, those actually look like, yeah, they are proper knockoffs. So, and what I mean by knockoffs is the center here, you'd actually need a dead blow hammer to spin that, because that's the only thing that holds it on. There's no lug nuts behind that, so that's what holds it on. And because if you don't do it the right way, it's very difficult to actually get off, to be honest. And you can see actually there's this dead blow down there. This thing is just an absolute beauty. Big fan. And while, you know, the tag says it's only a 318, honestly, 318 will move this thing along just fine. And the one thing is, with Mopars, after I think it was like 1963, they were basically all unibody. So this is actually a unibody chassis. And what do I mean by unibody is there's a subframe up front, a subframe out back, and the body is the most of the structure. Right? So that's why, like, when you see unibody convertibles, they have a lot of strengthening underneath, because once you cut off the roof, it loses a lot of that rigidity. So with these convertibles especially, if they have rusty floors, you definitely need to get that patch in any unibody, to be honest. Where body on frame, holes in the body are not as much of a concern. Here we have, now this is interesting. So this is a 1964 Chrysler Windsor. This happens to be a 361 under the hood, which, was that the start of the RB? I don't think so. Some people have to let me know the 361, because I believe it's a wedge motor actually, and it's got such a cool look to it. You know, take a look at the interior here, and like, look at the very unique steering wheel that it has, because it's not circular, it's actually more almost square, actually a little bit of roundness, but squared off. And this has got the push button automatic transmission, which is just one of the coolest inventions ever, because where a lot of vehicles, you know, you had to shift it with like automatic, this would have been on the column, otherwise, where you'd have to, you know, pull the column. The buttons actually, so the buttons are attached to, I think they're synchronizers if I'm not mistaken, or sensors, just very primitive. And they do have problems with them, but honestly, it's just very cool. And I'm a big fan of this old Mopar. So, and here we have the pinnacle of Dodge styling in the late 50s. So this is a 1959 Dodge Viscount, which at the time, design lead, I think his name was Earl Exner, if I'm not mistaken. He went for this design, and it's just super, super cool. And the one thing is, this sort of body style became famous with Stephen King's movie, what is that movie called? Albeit it wasn't a Dodge though, it was actually a Plymouth Fury in that movie. And it actually had a 1-year only Dodge 350 in that, but why can't I? Christine, there we go. That was the name of the movie. And so, very similar styling to this, albeit, you know, like this has different taillights, different grille, that sort of thing, but, and yeah, like the Viscount, I've never heard of it. I've heard of the, like, if this was a Dodge, Plymouth would have been a Plaza. I'm not sure actually what all Dodge would have had for models for this, to be honest, but it's just really cool, and it presents incredibly well. All right, so here we have something very, very neat. So this is a 1979 Dodge Macho Power Wagon, which in the 70s, honestly, Dodge was king of making these special edition trucks and just making them look so good. Like, well, there's this, you know, it's only a decal package, but the Power Wagon itself was actually, you know, what they called their sort of 4x4s at the time. And honestly, I'm a big, big fan of this era of Dodge trucks. You know, like, and they had, like, for example, the Little Red Express, the Midnight Express, the Warlock. You know, they had the Power Wagon, the Macho. All these really cool additions. And what's interesting about this, because this basic design started in, I think it was 1972-ish, 73, somewhere in there, and went up until 1993. So a lot of these parts, actually, body-wise, are interchangeable with the 90s ones, albeit, you know, your shet lines won't be as nice if you do that, but they will actually bolt on, which is kind of cool. So overall, I absolutely love it. So here we have something very, very cool. This is a Chevrolet G20 van, and this one, well, it's got the coolest stuff. So as you can see, it's got this button tuck velour all over the place. It's got the swivel buckets in it, and you just take a look back there. It is just absolutely amazing. I love the steering wheel as well, and this thing has got wood running boards. It's got, check out the side dump exhaust here. That's really cool. It's got the big wing up top, and oh yeah, gold louvers on it. It is just so neat. And you can see back in there, it's got a bit of a bed. So, which that might actually be a bench seat that folds into a bed, potentially. But I love these 70s vans like this, and when they're built out like this, it's just perfect, right? Big, big fan. Now let's go to the really unique vehicles. So here we have a TVR, which, if you don't know, TVR was a British company. They're sadly no longer around, but they made British sports cars, and they are famously known to want to try and kill you. Because they weighed basically nothing, they had a lot of power, and they were just very squirrely, right? So, and there was like no nanny aids almost ever put into TVRs, period. Some of their most famous ones is like the Griffith 500 and the Cerbera, as well as like the Cigaris later on and stuff. But yeah, so this is a TVR 3000M, so it's got a 3-liter in it. That is super, super cool. And honestly, I don't know a lot on these at all. In fact, I almost know nothing. Let's see. So interesting. Only 42 were made, or 654 were made for the 3000M. 42 in 78. And okay, it's an SXV6 Ford. That, okay, so I know a little bit about that engine actually. So this engine, like, was obviously, it was a Ford design, and Ford ran this engine. Actually, like, if you've ever heard of the 2.8, and, like, you know, for example, that Capri over there has a 2.8, which I'll show you guys that. They're one of my favorite cars, to be honest. So that is an Essex design, and that's the one thing, actually. Ford over here, they stopped production of the 2.8 V6 because there was too much demand for that motor over in Europe, and I guess they also put them in TVRs as well. That's really cool. So here we have, like, a car after my own heart. Now this one is a little later of one because this is, I want to say it's 80s, and the one thing is, this one happens to be right-hand drive, which these were actually assembled in Germany. And let's see, yeah, it's in 1982. So by 1982, we no longer had this style of Capri. It actually went to the Foxbody design, and honestly, just a big fan. Like I said, this is one of my favorite cars of all time. You almost never ever see these. And just take a look at that 2.8 V6. Honestly, just super cool. And to see, it's just like, it looks like it's just a Survivor sort of thing, right? Because the graphics look somewhat original, and like these Recaro seats in it. And this was, so these were assembled in Germany and then shipped out all over the world. Albeit, like I said, 1978 was the last year that North America got the, what I consider the European Capri. Overall, just so cool. And someday I'd love to own one of these, but we'll see if that's ever in the cards. And what's interesting, something that I do know, so the 2.8 wasn't the only motor that was available in the Capris over there, because they also had a 4-cylinder as well. But how you can tell from the outside if the hood was actually down is, you see that bulge in the hood? They call that the power bulge hood. And basically, if it was a 2.8 V6, you got that power bulge. If it was a 4-cylinder, you didn't. That was one of the ways that you knew what engine was under the hood. All right, so continuing on here. Sorry, I took a bit of a break here. So here we have a 1967 Ford Mustang, and this one, well, it's got a little bit of goodies under the hood here. Like, you can see the Edelbrock Performer intake and stuff like that, and the Edelbrock valve covers. It is a mostly original car overall. Like, you can see that, honestly, just looking at it, and it's in really good shape. Now, this was originally green, and it's been repainted to this red, which looks really good. And even, like, I love these American racing wheels with the red line tires. That's, like, you know, harkening back to what they used to do, because back in the day, that was the thing. The tires just had those red lines, and you can see the nice now it's interesting because that material doesn't look as original on the seats, but maybe it is. It's an automatic 289 car, and these are actually, so the Mustang came out in 1964, but they're actually based off of the Ford Falcon. And the Falcon started out in 1960. Now, the Mustang in 1964 came out as a 65 model year, technically, although there are some people that say 64 and a half because they were made in 64 and a half. Just depending on the date code of the motor. Well, or of the body, I should say. But it's a very gorgeous car. And to be honest, super popular. Like, these first-gen Mustangs, they made a ton of them, right? But it's still so cool to see, and it's kind of refreshing, honestly, to see a coupe rather than a fastback. I love fastbacks, don't get me wrong, but they made a lot more of these than the fastbacks, because the fastbacks, actually 67, I believe, was the first year for it. Maybe 66, but I think it was 67. And yeah, with that little 289 under the hood, that is a Windsor block, and basically, if you've heard of a 302, a 302 is just essentially an upstroked, if I'm not mistaken, 289. It would have different heads and stuff like that as well, but overall, just a very gorgeous car. All right, now check this out. So this awesome little MG, this would have been, I think the MGB was not the Roadster. trying to remember what these were called. Not the MGA either, because that was earlier. But, okay, it is an MGB. Okay, I just couldn't remember. Oh yeah, MGB, the GTs, that's right. Those were the ones that had a bit of a hatchback on them. These were a very, very popular car back in the day. And to be honest, because they're just a light, nimble little car, they've only got a little 4-cylinder motor in them. But overall, they are just a really, really neat car. And I'm a big fan of these, to be honest. Now, this one being a 75, it does not have these small chrome bumpers on it, but rather it has these big sort of urethane bumpers that they put on later due to American crash test safety for pedestrians, right? This has, I love the roll bar on it. That's really cool too. And just big fan of this. And that's the one thing, like with these, because they were just so popular with everybody. You know, so many people bought them. And because they were just such a versatile, fun little car. And reliability wasn't actually too bad on them either. Although, if I remember correctly, they do have Lucas Electronics, which was a problem because Lucas, they just had so many problems with them. But if we look over here, here we have a 1974 Triumph TR6. So this would have been like the competition to the MGB. And you don't see quite as many of the TR6s. They used to be popular back in the day, but a lot of them just didn't survive, and they didn't make quite as many of these as they did of those. So Triumph, they're known for their motorcycles, but they did actually create cars for a while too. These awesome little sports cars. And to be honest, they're just so fun, so flickable, and actually they had good success with racing. Now check out this awesome Foxbody here. So here we have a very customized Aero Foxbody, and as you can see under the hood, it's actually got a supercharged 427, which is so badass. You see that Vortex supercharger here, and it's just really neat. Oh wait, hang on a second. There's not just that, there's also Terpski. So this is twin charged, which that's not something you see very often. So in twin charge, basically that means it's supercharged and turbo. So basically the supercharger will feed the turbo and help it spool quicker. That's mostly what it's for, and it's a really cool sort of design that way. And you know, like you see interior wise, actually it's surprising. Like, while there is a lot of little custom touches, it's mostly original. Although you see the dash, like they have a digital dash in this thing, which that's really cool. And just cool custom touches like that really just make these things quite unique. And like you see back here, I love the plexiglass treatment because you can see the coilover design in the back and stuff, and the fuel cell here. This is such a cool build. And what's cool, because it's a notchback, it actually has a very similar spoiler to what I'm running, except for mine is a knockoff Celine spoiler. So that's really cool. And yeah, this thing would be very, very fast. Now, here's something really, really neat, and something that you don't see modified to this degree. So this might look like a Dodge D100, but actually this is a Canadian-only Fargo brand. Now, essentially, it's just a rebadged version of a Dodge, and it's just super cool. Like, I love this tilt front end that they made for this. That is just incredible to see, to be honest. And you see that nice 440 big block under here. And now, like, even take a look at the interior here. You know, actually, it's really, really clean. I love the bucket seats in it and everything. And that's just super cool. And like you see, even the tire treatment back here, right?
Every farm had one, yes.
It's just absolutely incredible. Like you can see, you know, the book here of the sort of build of it, which is just nice to see, to be honest, of where it came from. And the one thing is, like with these, because again, you only had these in Canada, because Americans might not know what the Fargo brand was, but because of, I believe it was taxation on imports, is the reason why that we actually had the Fargo brand entirely. All right, so here we go. Here is another Dodge pickup. This is a 79 Dodge W150 with a 360 small block. up here, and this is a power wagon as well. Now it doesn't have the paint like the other one over there, but to be honest, because it was a decal package, that's an option you can get for all that cool from earlier, right? But this thing is really, really cool, and especially being a single cab short box that's lifted like this. It's got a good look on it, to be honest, and the body looks like it's a Survivor. Now, because of there's really no rust in it, I do wonder, is this a galvanized body? Which was an option on the Dodges, to be honest, to get such a thing. And it's just a beautiful truck, and that's the one thing. Now, they did change, like, you know, the grille and some of the body panels or whatever, but they largely remained unchanged, so much so that when this body style came out, and I think it was like 73 or 74, that these panels would actually fit all the way up to a 1994, because they made it for that long. And the one thing is, like your shut lines won't be perfect, but they will bolt on, so it's pretty neat. Here we have another Fargo, actually. So here we go. This one's very customized as well, with the suicide doors on it, and you know, that's just really cool. And okay, so it's got a 355, so that'd be a Chevy motor. And it's probably on potentially a Dakota or an S10 chassis. That's what a lot of these kind of go to. And like your go-to is typically S10, but depending on what you want to do, right? And it's just absolutely gorgeous, right? I love this build, and just look at how low it sits too. It's just an absolutely lovely Fargo. And because yeah, what year is this one? It's a 39. Okay, so that's why I'm used to the generation after this in 48 that look a little different. So this is just a very, very cool rig. All right, check this out. So the owner just saw me doing a video on this, and he put the tilt front end, which that is so cool. And like, it's a little slow, but that's okay, to be honest. Now you see that, yeah, definitely a Chevy motor, 355. And check out the copper treatment on the for the heater core. That is so damn cool. Like, just the build on this is really good quality. You can see even these long tube headers here as well. Oh yeah, no, I'm a big fan of this.
Well, we're not gonna see the Mini.
Yeah, it takes a minute, but there you go. Just right about there you go. So it goes full out like that. Man, it gives you so much nice serviceability on this too if you really want to work on it. And of course you got the HEI distributor, which that's very popular, to be honest, and actually was Chevrolet design anyway. So yeah, and like the one thing is, because the Fargos were Canadian only due to taxation, and like I mentioned earlier, right? So it was just a cheaper way to get around with the taxes that were put in place on imported vehicles from the States or anywhere. So it's a very cool build. I absolutely love it. So earlier on, we found a R34 GTR. Now we have an R33. There's a Nismo badge on it, which, if it's actually a real Nismo, that is quite the valuable car, to be honest. And these things, like I said, it preceded the R34, and these would have had RB25, if I remember correctly, instead of the RB26. Yeah, RB25, there you go, right there. So, and these actually, I'm a big fan of these R33s, to be honest. Like, just check out this pearl paint too that they did on it. Just absolutely incredible. You know, the wheels and everything. It's a very nice build overall. You know, even the carbon fiber insert here.
Oh yeah, it's blue in the sunlight.
Just very nice. Oh. And yeah, so what's interesting though is that, like, because the R33 didn't have the legendary reputation that the R32 and that the R34 had, but to be honest, these were still an incredible car when they came out as well. And I'm a huge fan of this R33. All right, here we go. So we have a, I think a 69 or possibly a 68. 69, yeah, 69 Dodge. Now what's interesting is, like, you see this battery here, which that harkens back to what the original batteries actually looked like back then. You can see, there's headers on here, and I love these. And if I remember correctly, this is on the Chrysler A platform, I think, because it wasn't a B, it wasn't a C. I think it was the A, because I know that the Challengers and the Charger, or Challengers and Cudas were on the E body. So it's just a beautiful Dart. And the one thing is, these were quite popular too, and they're very popular now with the 340 under the hood. And so it's a bench seat column shift automatic, but so this thing would run pretty darn good, and it'd be quite fast too with 344 barrel. And it's got, you know, an Edelbrock intake on it, and it looks like there's definitely is an aftermarket carb on there for sure too. So, and I can imagine there might be some internal work done to this motor, but overall, a beautiful build. Here we go. So, you know, you see these every now and then. So this is a Lamborghini Gallardo LP 560-4, and ooh, it's actually not an E-gear car. It has the 6-speed manual, which that's actually quite rare to find. So the motor in these is a 5.2 liter Audi derived V10, and the 560 represents how much power it makes, 560, and then the 4 means all-wheel drive. So it's a very cool car, and these things are very quick. Naturally aspirated, and you know, this is a 2009, okay. So, and that's the one thing, like, you won't find them with the manuals almost ever, because a lot of them, like when I say E-gear, those are the electronic automatics. So it is just a very gorgeous car, and I'm a big fan of it too. Okay, so I just talked to the owner about this MR2 because I was looking at it going, there's a V6 badge on the back of this. What is the motor? Well, it's actually a 2GR V6 out of a Toyota Sienna. They also put them in cars and in trucks as well. And to be honest, this has close to 300 horsepower, which is more than it would have had stock. And basically the owner just told me he just wants to, you know, be able to race it reliably, you know, not have any turbos or it braking. So, and that's the way to do it. And now he didn't do the motor swap himself. He actually sent it out. There's a company down in the States that does it. But still, honestly, big fan of these. And like these MR2s, and actually what the MR2 stands for. So the M is mid-engine, the R is rear-wheel drive, and the 2, I think it's two-wheel drive if I'm not mistaken. No, two-seater. That's what it was. Or maybe it's midship roundabout two-seater. That may have been what it was. But yeah, and this is the last, well, actually not the last generation of the MR2, because I did do one after this, which was just strictly a roadster. But overall, I love it, especially with the T-tops and stuff. It's a very cool car. All right, so this is a really cool car, actually. This is the 1972 De Tomaso Pantera, which, if you don't know about these, De Tomaso is a Italian manufacturer, and they actually built these. Now, they do actually have a Ford motor in them, which was usually a 351 Windsor, and the body, you know, was designed by Ghia. And it's just pretty. And now you see, like, this one even is a manual as well, and got all the gauges that you need for stuff. And when you look under, so these are mid-engine, right? You take a look back here and take a look at that exhaust treatment. That is just absolutely beautiful. And yeah, it's definitely not stock. It's got an aftermarket intake on it. It's got an aftermarket, is that carbureted? Yeah, I think it is. That might be injected actually. But, you know, regardless, just a beautiful build.
You want to answer any?
So, little mistake that I made, actually, just talked to the owner here. So, that's actually a 351 Cleveland with a Holley Sniper unit on it. And basically, like, he built this to, honestly, he just wants to race it and it be somewhat reliable. Because, like, these were not put together very well back in the day, but it's so nice to see. And like this header design, so actually I didn't even realize, but notice that the pipes actually cross over to the other side, so it gives it a unique sound, and he wanted it to stick out like a GT40 similar, right? So that's why it's built the way it is. And you can see some of the details here. You know, it's just an incredible car, and I'm a big fan of these, to be honest. Like, it's even got, you know, like the nice Willwood disc brakes back here, the nice fat Michelin tires on it, and yeah, overall really beautiful build. So now these are some of my favorite cars, actually. So this is a first gen Firebird, and the Firebird and the Camaro are like sister cars, right? And they were sister cars from day one. And these started production in 1967, and they went with this body style until 1969. 1970, they changed the body style. Now this has a Pontiac 400 under the hood, and just look at the goodies on this. It's got everything. So you can see that you've got the Edelbrock heads on it, you've got the nice headers, you got the MSD distributor and the plug wires built, the Blaster SS coil on it. Oh yeah, this thing would make a really good amount of power, to be honest. And it's cool to see that they actually did the Pontiac motor instead of going to like an LS or a Chevrolet small block. And what's interesting, because people will say that, oh, Pontiacs are big blocks. Well, not really. They're technically a small block, they just look like a big block. So it's just the way they are. And there's people that can tell me more on that, to be honest, because, and like something that's interesting, so we've all seen the big Firebird logo on the 70s Trans Ams, but in the 60s, this is the bird that was on these, and it was just a small little badge, not a giant thing across the hood. Now this, I mean, the 400s would have had a hood similar to this, or like I believe a lot of them did, and it's just really nice. I love this green color, to be honest. And it's got, you know, these aftermarket bucket seats, which actually look really nice in here, to be honest, with the 5-speed manual in it. Just a very nice look. And even that wood rim steering wheel, big fan. Now here we go. So this is a old Mercedes, would have been a, I need to look at the badges on the back to be honest to know for sure. So this would have been a Mercedes 250. So this would have had a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder, I believe, back in the day. And now though, if you take a look under the hood, yeah, it's got an LS. And okay, that's just the intake. Unless this does have a turbo on it, which, because that kind of looks like turbo piping for that. I can't see it, but maybe it's a rear mounted turbo or something. I don't know. But that is just absolutely incredible build. You know, unless those are for cutouts, maybe that might be what it is. And then also just like it's slammed on the ground, which I'm assuming it's on like airbags or something, but really just an absolutely beautiful build, and it's something that you don't really see. Now it's interesting in this one because it actually has kind of a cool thing of these louvers that are not on the outside, they're on the inside. And if I'm not mistaken, you can actually close those as well, similar to blinds. And basically it just made it so that made the car a little cooler because it's got some of the heat out of it. But overall, a very beautiful build. Alright, so we carry on here, and now this is a little interesting. So when I first looked at this thing, not really paying attention, I thought it was a Barracuda, but turns out this is actually a Sunbeam Alpine, which something you don't see. And when I'm used to the Alpines, I'm used to a different body style than this, because this is a 70, but I'm used to the Roadster styles that they built into like the Sunbeam Tiger and stuff like that. So this honestly is really, really cool to see. Now, to be honest, do I know anything about these? Not a ton. They would have had, I think it may have been a straight 6, but I think it was a 4-cylinder. And yeah, that is just really, really cool. And this is one of these things, like with me, I like the more unique vehicles that you find around, right? And this, you know, when are you going to see another one of these? And now, because actually the owner of this also owns that Mercedes over there, and now this is a 1976 Austin Mini. And what's cool about these, because these were made kind of out of necessity in England, because these were made all the way back in, I want to say it was like 58 is when they first started. And the one thing is, because how small they were, and they actually pioneered the whole front wheel drive design. These, you know, transversely mounted, which a lot of front wheel drives prior to that had a much different design, but these actually dominated in racing, to be honest. They did in rallies and stuff like that too, because they're just so small, so light. And what's cool to see the very, very tiny little tires on it, which those look like stock maybe 10 or 11 inch wheels, and really very flickable. And this one has some goodies under the hood, apparently, like poured and polished head and stuff like that, but big fan. So here we go. Now this is something you almost never see. So this is a 1976 Ford Courier. What's cool about these, so Ford was looking to have a downsized truck in the late 60s and early 70s, and they actually partnered with Mazda, and this is technically a Mazda body on this, which Mazda had a version of this, and they even had a rotary version of this, which is a very, very rare thing. And to be honest, it's rare to find these unmodified, which this one actually is. It has an LS in it, but you know, that's okay, to be honest. And just like, check out this interior, honestly, with the 4-speed shifter on it and stuff, and you know, the tough wheel on it. That just presents incredibly well. And I'm a big fan of these Ford Couriers, to be honest. And even the Mazda variants as well, because they're basically the same. So I was mistaken. So this one is original. I read the description wrong on there.
Yeah, no, I wrote it wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You don't have any trouble checking the fuses anyway.
Yeah. So good. Oh yeah, and it's really cool to see, honestly. And what's nice is that, hey, if you forget what your firing order is, it's literally right on the valve cover like that.
Oh, this is cool.
Back in the day, that's the stock airbox, right? And you can see just that one little one-barrel carb on this thing. This thing may have made, if you're lucky, like 110 horsepower.
Oh yeah.
But overall, that is just super cool. Well, I hope you guys did enjoy this video. It was just a little. My phone's dying. It's really hot. So yeah, that's gonna end this video. But I do hope you guys appreciated everything, because there was a lot of work to get this done. And you know, like I said, I hope you enjoy it. So anyways, yeah, just talk to you soon. Hope you're staying safe during COVID-19. Good luck for the working on. And obviously, if you want to contact me, you can at Katarina's Garage on Instagram, or even on TikTok at Katarina's Garage as well. And you know, anything else? Well, leave it down in the comments below. So anyways,